Okay, thank you. I was given the honor to moderate today's seminar. As you all know, yesterday we had a brief lecture by Professors Mering and Travny, considering their research on the notion of the archive and its philosophical dimensions, as well as these kind of dimensions related to the actual practice of archival research. So as the customs go, I will briefly introduce the professors, and then they will give a small introduction that will introduce the topics of the seminar, and then our participants will have their chance to talk, give their impressions, thoughts, and ideas, and then we will hopefully get into an interesting discussion. So just for a brief introduction for those who weren't here yesterday, our guests are Professors Reinhard Mering and Peter Travny. Professor Mering is a German political scientist and a philosopher. He studied philosophy, German language, and political science at the University of Bonn and Freiburg. In 1988, he obtained his doctorate in political science in Freiburg with a comprehensive presentation of the work of Carl Schmitt. Subsequently, between 1989 and 2000, he held a position at the universities of Düsseldorf and Würzburg, as well as at the Humboldt University in Berlin, where he completed his habilitation in philosophy in 2000 with a thesis on Thomas Mann. Peter Travny is a German philosopher and a professor at the University of Wuppertal. Travny studied philosophy, musicology, and art history at the Ruhr University in Bochum. In 1995, he received his doctorate under Klaus Held with a dissertation on Martin Heidegger's Phenomenology of the World. Starting in 1997, Travny was a research assistant at the University of Wuppertal in Klaus Held's Department of Phenomenology. In 2000, he completed his habilitation at the University of Wuppertal on the time of the Trinity, investigations of the Trinity in Hegel and Schelling. After his habilitation, Travny worked from 2001 to 2003 at the philosophy department of the Albert Ludwigs University in Freiburg. In 2011, he assumed the deputy professor position at Södertörn University in Stockholm at the Center for Baltic and East European Studies. In 2012, he founded the Martin Heidegger Institute in German at the Bergische University in Wuppertal. Okay, now our guest speakers can take some time to introduce some topics of the seminar that we will be further discussing.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I don't know exactly how it works now, but yesterday it worked somehow, and maybe today too. Yeah, we are pleased just to talk a little bit to you. Well, we gave our papers yesterday. I gave a talk and made something like a thesis paper you can find there. So. It would help you, but I'm not able now just to remake it one time again. So I got the idea just to introduce you a little bit. I don't know if it works. Maybe is there any guy, or can you give me something like a push? I just want to show you a little bit material to say, well. Yesterday we talked about that Carl Schmitt never spoke openly what he really was thinking about. So as a lawyer, he always spoke with spoke something like a double talk. And there are lots of questions you cannot answer just from his writings, but you need the papers of the archive. I just want to show it to you a little bit, and we got very easy examples. Could you please go further around? I just want to show, start with, yes, let's stop here now. It's just because of you here in Belgrade. Yeah, it's first edition of Carl Schmitt Fassungslehre. Carl Schmitt quotes to an important guy from Serbia, yeah, and Yugoslavia, Sava Klikovic, maybe an important guy. We talked about, I cannot exactly introduce the guy, but he was important for international relations between Yugoslavia and different parts of the world. And he studied in Berlin in 1940 and made his PhD. And he was in close friendship to Schmitt for about 30 years on. So there exists a lot of documents between Klikovic and Schmitt. He often comes to the old Schmitt, and there will be, I don't know exactly, let's say 200 letters and so on, yeah, and all the documents which run through Carl Schmitt's connection to Russia and Serbia, yeah. You know, Carl Schmitt was married to a lady from Serbia, yeah, and so he got a lot of contact into Yugoslavia. Sava Klikovic will be an important guy, and he was a very close friend of Schmitt, but nobody really studied it and nobody knows about. Yeah, it could be a wonderful PhD work, yeah, to do it. I just show you a little bit. Well, it's a dedication book, quite expensive book, the most important one for Verfassungslehre from Carl Schmitt. I own it privately because I got it as a present from my PhD father, Hennes. Yeah, he got it somehow in 1960. Yeah, but it's March 1940. Yeah, and he is my dearest Sava Klikovic for the remembering of his student days in Berlin from his friend and teacher Carl Schmitt.
See this Schmitt is that Klitschko.
Klitschkovic, yeah, Klitschkovic. Yeah. So very typical for Carl Schmitt, yeah, to give such a present, yeah, and he stayed in deep friendship for his whole life. Nobody knows about, yeah. Let's go further, please. Yeah, please further. Next one, yes. Maybe you can make it a little bit broader. Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah. Well, one big question, of course, if you study Carl Schmitt and are interested in the international discussions, relation between Max Weber and Carl Schmitt. Yeah. Yeah, we know, well, there was something like a relation. We know Carl Schmitt took part to the latest lectures and seminars of Max Weber. And he was also taking part to something like Max Weber Gedächtnisschrift. Yeah, I don't know how it calls. Very important present to the dead Max Weber. And Carl Schmitt's most important programmatic work is published in a remembering book to Max Weber. But this one is Max Weber on its own, yeah? And if you took part to the lectures, yeah, you got something like a test or a proof, yeah, that you are allowed taking part, yeah? And that is Seminar University Munich to private teacher, Carl Schmitt. In the winter semester 1919 to 1920, we know he also took part in summer 1920, and Max Weber died in May, I think in May or June 1920. So Carl Schmitt took part to the last lectures of Max Weber, and it's signed by Max Weber, yes? And very typical to Carl Schmitt, he kleben. He put this card in the inside book of Wirtschaft und Gesellschaft, yeah, economy and society. His very important book. It's the only direct proof, yeah, that Max Weber and Carl Schmitt were in private context, and very typical to Carl Schmitt too. I would say Handscript maybe 1950s on. Just one sentence, Carl Schmitt is writing for remembering Max Weber, the intellectual courage, something like this, to miss the charisma of another guy was more strong to Max Weber than the angst, the fear, the existential fear of Max Weber himself to lose his own life. As Carl Schmitt is saying something about Max Weber, well, you can think about, yeah. Just a personal remembering about the impression of the character of Max Weber. Please, one, yes, very important, really unknown, yeah. You know, we talk about archives and edition, yeah. Carl Schmitt knew every editor of Max Weber, yeah. He knew Marianne Weber, he knew all these guys. For some years, he was colleague of Melchior Pallier, German Jewish intellectual, yeah, who made the first edition on Max Weber together with Marianne Weber, you know, yeah. And the second important editor is Johannes Winkelmann. And I think all the books you read from Max Weber are edited from Johannes Winkelmann. Nobody knows that, or nearly nobody knows that Johannes Winkelmann was in close friendship to Carl Schmitt about 30 years on, 25 years on, and Carl Schmitt took part to the editions Max Winkelmann did. So Carl Schmitt not only knew personally Max Weber, but he knew all editors, and he directly took part to make editions of Max Weber. And in 1960, the personal contact or relation between Schmitt and Winkelmann ended, maybe by political reasons. That's the reason that nobody knows that Winkelmann was very close to Carl Schmitt. All the years through, he made these big editions to Max Weber. Yeah, that is the dedication book, Gesammelte politische Schriften, collected political writings, but Winkelmann edited everything. He edited not only the political writings, but also, you know, economy and science, and also Wissenschaftslehre. Yeah, Carl Schmitt honored den Verehrten zur 70. Wiederkehr seines Geburtstages und zur 20. Wiederkehr unserer Erstbegegnung in Dankbarkeit, 11. August 1958, Hans Winkelmann. Ja, means in Verehrung, very emotional, intense words, in Verehrung, in deep honoring, yeah, as a present to the 7th birthday and the 20th Jahrestag,
anniversary.
Yeah, and of our first meeting in Dankbarkeit, thankfully, yeah, and deep honoring of Winkelmann to Carl Schmitt in 1958. And Carl Schmitt is making jokes about Winkelmann. I will not explain now. Yeah, everything what is writing here is critical against Winkelmann. And 2 years after, he stopped the personal contact. Yeah, so if you are thinking about reading some books on Max Weber, please always think about the relation between Carl Schmitt and Winkelmann. Yeah, Winkelmann wanted to edit Max Weber in a style which is close to Carl Schmitt, anti-positivistic. Yeah, please, next one. Yeah, I'm not. I cannot comment. It's too long. Yeah, but it's just an example. A book dedicated to my PhD father in 1982. That means Carl Schmitt at the moment is about 94 years old. Yeah, 94 years old, and he makes a present to a guy. Yeah, and he is explaining a little bit. Yeah, why he is thankful. Yeah, Bible. Yeah, Tolete me und so weiter. Well, it says something like, "Try to get rid of me, and I will come back." Bible, yeah. You can criticize as you want. I will ever come back. Yeah, this is Carl Schmitt tells. 94 years. Yeah, something about Tocqueville and something about Max Weber. Yeah, and then he comments some researches of Hennes from 1982. Carl Schmitt, 94 years old. Carl Schmitt is reading Latin and Greek papers and so on. Yeah? And then he makes something very typical too. He gives something like a Rätsel or a poet. Max Weber war kein Geli mehr und Kaiser Wilhelm in Berlin war kein Justitian in Constantinople. He is telling something I cannot comment. You can really think about what he is giving to the research. He compares, yeah, Max Weber with Justitian. And it's a comment on sociology of religion, yeah, something my PhD father never understood, yeah, well, it's a kind of poem, yeah, but it's also a kind of Rätsel, as we say in German, question, yeah, Rätsel, yeah,
Riddle,
yeah. So these all papers are something like a Rätsel, yeah, and you can write extraordinary good PhDs just on something like this Rätsel, yeah, and well, it's all. Carl Schmitt is never talking about in his public writings. It's just the archive. Bitte.
What is written under the quotation?
you can use this if it's convenient.
Jonas.
Just press the right button.
Jonas, Buch Jonas. Ja, also ich kenne das Zitat. Ich habe es mal.
So it's the Old Testament. It's the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And it's written. It's quoted.
Yeah,
quoted from the Vulgata.
Yeah. We talk about Carl Schmitt never talked read Hebrew. He was excellent in very different languages: French, Italy, Spain, Latin, Greek. He all was interested in and very nearly perfect, but he never wanted to study Hebrew language. Yeah? Well, that's just an impression of these also that there are lots of Rätsel in the archive, and there are, as I told yesterday, there are thousands of books all over the world written about Carl Schmitt, and there are hundreds of studies about the relation between Max Weber and Carl Schmitt, but nobody really knows about these things, and you can find a lot of strange and interesting remarks on all these subjects just by going into the archive and just having a look at his books, yeah, about and so on.
Yes, and to write a paper on book dedications, for example, an article.
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
Book dedications.
Yeah, and also I found in the archive, Carl Schmitt always he quoted nearly everything. All his dedications he also wrote in a book. Yeah, and you can see, very interesting for researchers. Most of his books he gave as a present to hundreds of guys, and always he was thinking about interesting dedications. Yeah, and you can study how he tries to make influence. Yeah, I don't know here.
So are these dedications personal ones? Are these dedicated personal ones, or what kind of?
Extremely personal. Extremely, I think, very different from other guys. Yeah, this one is an example. Yeah, of course, he's directly answering, and he makes extreme, strange, and jokes and everything, quotations. I don't know any other guy who makes so interesting dedications. Yeah, I'm always thinking about my stuff and say, well, no, I don't know.
Olga, now we can go into the.
Could you tell us what the Rätsel is? What does it say?
Huh?
The Rätsel, what does it say? Could you translate it for us? The riddle.
What does it say? Yeah, yes. Yeah. You said to whom it's written. Yeah, that of course is an interesting question. Yeah, because I can say my doctor father, I think he never really was asking what Carl Schmitt wanted to say to him. Yeah, so you can say, of course, Carl Schmitt, yesterday I told you that Carl Schmitt was only interested in the guys of his present days. And he didn't too much take care of future. Yeah, living as a Christian guy is living in the last days of the world. Yeah, Carl Schmitt was not interested in future. Yeah, so he didn't address his writings to our generations. Yeah, so what he is doing here, yeah, he gives tests and rätsels to special lectures, to special guys who are interested in his writings. And of course, it has something to do with differentiating between friend and enemy by testing the lectures of these guys. Yeah, is the guy able, yeah, really to understand and to answer as a friend? Yeah, or is he just a simple, bloody, stupid academic who is not really thinking about what is important. Yeah, writing books is a way of making friends and also of making enemies, and to give something like a proof or a test to all these guys, yeah, who are reading your stuff, yeah, and that's the differentiation between all these stupid other guys and the guys maybe Carl Schmitt for a moment would name something like Schmittians, yeah, Schmittian friends, yeah, but no friendship at the end. Or Schmittian friends are also only friends for some moments or months, and they have to go through the test every day and every week. By example, it was told to me a night with Koselleck, Carl Schmitt, Koselleck, Reinhard Koselleck, very famous historian. Maybe you know his name, Koselleck. Yeah, yeah, Koselleck. Well, a night with Koselleck. Yeah, Carl Schmitt maybe invented a subject where they were talking about much alcohol, also hard drinks, all the night through, up to maybe 3 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, coming up to Carl Schmitt and questions. 8 o'clock in the morning. Test. Is a guy able to drink? Is a guy able to discuss? Is a guy able to give some hours later, yeah, something like a report, yeah, what was going on yesterday night and so on, and he can prove the test. And that's the reason why some of the guys who were in contact with Carl Schmitt were quite ingenious guys. Koselleck wasn't, not so genius, very important all over the known, very well known, but the most ingenious guys are still on another level. Birkenförde is more interesting, like Koselleck, Ernst Rudolf Hubert and Huber, the most important one, and all these ingenious intellectuals Carl Schmitt was talking to. He was always testing the guys and making differentiations between friends and enemies.
Okay, so Professor Travny, do you have like a small introduction, or do you have something to maybe give as a topic of discussion?
Yeah, I will do something different, and I will deliver probably a small improvisation on the topic of the archive. At first, just with an experiment. I don't know whether in Belgrade or in your institute, post-colonial studies are how can I say that? Established, yeah.
Well, not really.
Not so much.
Not like a specific topic, maybe.
Yeah.
Appears
but the experiment would be that you could ask yourself whether the archive is actually a colonial project. And I would say that a post-colonial scientist would claim that the archive is a colonial project. But what is interesting and this is only an experiment at the beginning of what I try to develop here or to improvise. If you think why an archive could be a colonial project, then you probably would think about the main characteristics of an archive. For instance, take the topic of scripture, of writing. Then you have probably one colonial concept, one main concept of colonialism, because for instance, you know that so-called African philosophy is built on a oral tradition. So actually, there cannot be an archive of African philosophy in a way. But what is interesting here, just to make it more complicated in a way, is the question of retransferring a kind of archives colonials made in the 19th century. So, for instance, when they collected figures and sculptures from Africa, brought them to Germany, and now we have a discussion that it should be retransferred. But these are actually archives. But these are, of course, colonial archives. Africans, in this perspective, does not know. So yeah, they never had a museum of their own art in this way. And now we have these collections. In the question of retransferring them, retransferring a colonial style of thinking in a situation where these kind of archives actually does not exist. But this is only that was only a side story. What I want to try to think about, and this has something to do with what Reinhard Mehring did, namely with his second item on this, or second thesis on this paper, when he makes a difference between exoterism and esoterism. And this reminds me of the question for the difference of interiority and exteriority concerning the archive, and how important and relevant and in how far important and relevant these difference for the constitution of an archive is. The difference, the separation of the archive from an outer sphere, and the question, of course, concerning these difference, and this is also, like I said, this is always you have to think about these esoteric riddle. Probably not. It's by intent. It's intentionally esoteric.
Yes.
Yeah. So this difference is also at stake. I would say in the archive, not maybe in this sense of esoterism and exoterism, but nevertheless in the meaning of a strong difference between the outer and the inner sphere, and the question who has access. That's of course very important for the archive. That the question who has access, or also here who has access to this riddle, who can solve the riddle. That this question is connected with the presence, or with the importance of this difference between the inner sphere and the outer sphere. This refers to what Peter yesterday asked or talked about, namely the question of the construction of the archive. The construction of the archive, not only in the ideal sense that you can say everybody constructs in a way his archive. Well, at least, and every colonial guy, every colonist constructs his archive and gives or withdraws access, but also in a very concrete sense, not only in the ideal sense, but also in the concrete sense. I think that it's very interesting that your library is behind bars in a way, you know, so it's just like you need whatever very special allowance to use the books or to take them. I don't know, you need a key or two keys or more keys, or you have to know a code or something. Don't know. But this is something what belongs to the dimension of the inner dimension of an archive. Concrete, and concrete here in the double sense, namely concrete in the way of concrete, but also of the in the sense of the matter concrete, because the German archive of literature in Marbach, and this is the holy mountain, the Mount Zion of German literature, because it's on the mountain, it's on the mountains. But there are all the there are all the important estates of German philosophy and literature at first, and also philosophy of the 19th and 20th century. More or less, well, for instance, the estate of Hölderlin is not there, but nevertheless, a lot of things are there. Heidegger, for instance, also. But it's actually a bunker. It's a bunker, and it's not only a bunker, it's a bunker built against atom bombs. So it's a atom bomb secured archive. So in this sense, you have, of course, the meaning of concrete of the construction, right, literally here. So it gives, the archives gives shelter, even if it will be attacked by Russian atom bombs. Well, it was an effect.
Iranian ones.
Yeah, Iranian ones. Today, Iranian ones, but it was built in the Cold War, in the times of the Cold War, so they thought of Soviet Union. And in this sense, you can ask, or you can probably think that the inner sphere of the construction of an archive gives also shelter because of the conservation of what is collected there. So of course you could ask, and maybe later we could ask, is this necessary? Is it necessary that that the archive has such a strong difference, makes such a strong difference between the inner sphere and the outer sphere, between esotericism and exoterism, if you want to say so, if you want to think so, because you find in the archive, I would say, you can find esoteric informations about the thinkers and the poets. What is at stake here is quite clear. The conservation of this material, the conservation for new generations to come, and what is actually conserved there comes from the past. So the archive is in itself also the question for heritage or inheritance. That means, in a way, the archive is a necessary let's say a necessary item, a necessary institution of tradition. No tradition without archives. And well, in this sense, like I said right up from the beginning, you have a certain style, of course, a certain style of thinking, and our question could be, what kind of thinking these concepts are constituting. And now, well, at the end of my small improvisation, what I think is quite important to think about this, you know, all these concepts concerning concerning the archive. So, but you said, for instance, that Schmidt, as a Christian, was not concerned by future, as if Christianity is not interested in future. That I think that was a strong claim on Christianity. You really think that Christianity is not interested in the future?
Schmidt's style of Christianity is always comparing große Parallele. Yeah, he's always saying, well, I'm a Christian guy in the situation before church. Yeah, in the situation as the early times of Christianity. And that is very close to the idea of end of history. Yeah. And of course, you know, it's there are also hundreds of books about Schmidt's thinking of Christian construction of having something like going to an end of history and mankind history.
About the
so I think
yeah,
it was thinking about. And well, there are religious motives of constructing relation time to time.
Yeah.
So maybe it also belongs to the idea that the archive is a very European and Christian idea.
Yeah. So we are then at the end of my improvisation, maybe in Derrida's Mal d'Archives, because. Like I said, tradition, for instance, is a Roman concept, but it was adopted and assimilated by the Catholic Church right up from the beginning. So that tradition is, in a way, a very crucial Catholic term. You mentioned the Vatican and the archives of the Vatican. So tradition is never. Is also a question of the future. So tradition is never just whatever, is never just a relation to the past. Tradition is a relation to the future. So there's a whole framework of concepts and of ideas belonging to, maybe, like you said, to a Christian understanding of history. Maybe Heidegger would say to a metaphysical concept of history, so that we would say that, in a way, an archive is a metaphysical idea and a metaphysical institution. I would say that Heidegger would claim that. Nevertheless, when he had a strong interest in his own estate and bringing it exactly because of the bunker situation to Marbach, because his son said to him, "Well, your paper will survive the next atomic war," and he said, "Okay, then I will give it." So, but nevertheless, the question would be whether an archive, what framework, what ideological, what philosophical framework actually is presupposed for understanding an archive, and we have different offers here: Christianity, metaphysics, colonialism, or whatever. So that was my improvisation.
Okay, sure. You can comment, and then we can start a bit of the discussion. I think Peter would like to go first, so you go, and then Peter will comment.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much question you will have, but I'm always interested in differentiating between Heidegger and Carl Schmitt. Peter knows, and I was saying that Carl Schmitt tried to make friends in corresponding about his works. Yeah, and Heidegger. Always said that he is misunderstood. Also, from the very, also his all his close pupils, Löwit, Gadamer, he always, Pergolor, he always said nobody understands me. Yeah, and maybe that's important because of the question to whom they dedicate their books and their writings. Yeah, as I said, Carl Schmitt believes that it's possible to make friends in the present days, and Heidegger says, well, there is no chance, nobody understands me. I have to bring it to next generations. And that and my work is not from nowadays, but it's for the next centuries. Carl Schmitt never had this idea. I think it's a very important difference. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the other thing what I didn't but I couldn't do is to bring on another concept, namely the concept of capital. Probably one could ask whether an archive is a form of capital, but this is then that would be the next perspective, another perspective on the archive. But now. By all the differences between Heidegger and Schmitt, there are a lot of differences, of course. They are very, very different thinkers. It's not questions. But what they were sharing was the difference between esotericism and exotericism. There is also for Heidegger a quite important difference between an esoteric perspective on thinking and on speaking and an exoteric. So in this sense, they share a certain style of thinking, I would say. Just
okay. So to open the floor for a discussion, Peter will go first.
Thank you, Milan. I have, first of all, exists just only one letter, Heidegger Schmitt. Yes, only one.
Or yeah, they're from Heidegger. Yeah, they're
just one.
Just actually one. Yeah,
one.
No, I'm not sure because we know that Carl Schmitt answered to Heidegger's letter. Yeah,
that means
one of the.
We have not this letter.
Yes, but we know, well, we got the letter from Heidegger to Carl Schmitt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, I sometimes reconstructed the stories. I don't get it exactly, but Heidegger is sending Rektoratsrede to Schmitt.
Yeah.
With a letter. Yeah. And Schmitt is answering. We know it's one of the interesting thoughts or maybe editorial problems of the Heidegger edition. Hermann Heidegger, not Peter, yeah? Hermann Heidegger edited the letter from Heidegger to Schmitt. I don't know which kind of copy, not with the remarks of Carl Schmitt. The letter in the archive of Carl Schmitt is quoted by Carl Schmitt, and you can see a part of his answer. Yeah, and we know that Carl Schmitt, the background is maybe working together in Berlin. You know, Heidegger and Carl Schmitt, they were both vocated to Berlin University. Yeah, and they thought about maybe working together, the philosopher and the lawyer. And yeah, Heidegger didn't go to Berlin and Carl Schmitt did. So there is a special strategic background, of course, yeah, and also a little bit more correspondence. We know then that Carl Schmitt, Heidegger sent it the Rektoratsrede. This is still in the archive of Carl Schmitt. Nobody looked at, also with quotations. And Carl Schmitt later on sent it Stadtbewegung Volk, the first book in National Social. I don't know if so there was something like the correspondence is a little bit more big. You can also ask a question, what means correspondence? Yeah, is it just letters? Or is it letters together with books? Yeah, or is it just books? Yeah. So a lot of correspondence between academics is just sending books, without big remarks and so on. So the story is much more complicated than just reading the letter in Heidegger Gesamtausgabe. And the full story is not still reconstructed yet. And I wrote an article about what was maybe what went on, but it's getting a little bit too long, on the 9th September 1933 in Berlin, because at the same day, Carl Schmitt and Heidegger were at the ministry in Berlin. They were at the same time with the same Begründung.
Heidegger is a rector.
Yeah, to Berlin, they were both. They both should go to Berlin by political reasons. It is written in the paper, go by staatspolitische Gründe. Not by philosophical or juristische Gründe. They go together at the same time. And at the same day, they are together in the ministry. And I am sure that they met at the same day in Berlin. I was told about, Ernst Hüsmer told me about, Carl Schmitt sometimes mentioned this meeting together with Heidegger, 9th September 1933. I'm quite sure that Heidegger explained to Heidegger that, well, it's absolutely a very strange idea to make power to National Socialist politicians in the form of philosophy. He talked to Heidegger, you don't have a chance of getting influence. If one of us both will have influence, of course, it's me, because I'm a lawyer and you're only a philosopher. So it's a more bigger story. And you always see you need the archive somehow. You at least should look at the book Heidegger, send it to Heidegger, to Carl Schmitt, die Behauptung der Deutschen Universität. It's still left in his archive. I saw it.
Okay, several notes, just to, for example, for future text. First of all, if you are producing your own archive, you are in the same time producing the archive of the other. If I am sending you a letter, you are immediately in this situation to well, immediately today, if you forward email, one email, immediately you have your own archive, dispersed on several addresses. Why I mentioned this, because, for example, Honneth, he told me that he has a problem how to collect all his mail, all his email. Well, we have today problem if you want. It's very difficult to collect emails. This is one thing. And second thing, generally before people didn't make the copies of their letters. That means letter is always on the other side. It's not yours. And this immediately, this is the problem. And well, okay, for us, for all of us, question how to collect our emails, our disks, because all of us, we have disks, we have many problems with this. Okay. Then this is, I think, not because I wrote one piece about Scribomania in archive is, you know, implies, or Scribomania implies archive. I think that all these four huge archivists in philosophy or in jurists, I think Carl Schmitt is generally collected as a philosopher in English. In London bookstores, Schmitt is not in law, in philosophy. Husserl, Heidegger, Schmitt, Derrida, they are scribblers, first of all. That means they are writing all the time. This is the part of, this is the question of the body. I mentioned this because in one interview of Derrida to, his name is Daniel Ferrer, who is an interesting guy, and he mentioned that Jean Genet criticized Derrida, Jean Genet, theater writer, criticized Derrida when he heard that Derrida started to use Olivetti machine. And he's, you know, this is, Derrida was one of the first, Olivetti gave him a present, this first computer. And Jean Genet said that this is quote in Derrida's interview, you could not write, you know, it's forbidden to write in machine because you kill your phrase, que ça tue votre phrase. This is violence, unacceptable violence. And this is the question of the body, he said. Corps, c'est une question du corps. Mais on ne peut pas écrire à la machine à écrire. Vous vous rendez bien compte que ça tue votre phrase. C'est une violence inacceptable. C'est une question du corps. OK. Why this? Why all of this? Because is it, for example, Miranda Fricker? Miranda Fricker is one very good, very famous analytic philosopher. After her life, we will have an archive of Miranda Fricker. We have archive of Rawls because Rawls was also scribbler. Rawls, his lectures were with the texts. He never improvised. We have an archive of Klein, but we will have an archive of Badiou. But imagine one. Shall we have your archive, Peter?
Yeah, well, the question is, that was the question of the access, but it's also referring to the main question of Honneth. For instance, I have an old AOL account. Actually, my emails are collected in the internet, so my space is infinite. I have now, whatever, 20,000 emails. Not read. It's okay. No, but is this an archive? Because if I have all my emails there, I never ask my question of the access. Is it because then I would have to delete a lot of emails where I would say they don't belong to my archive. So is every email account an archive? I wouldn't say so. And this is the other question of the access. Not not who has access also, but what kind of thing has access. For instance, Marbach, I mentioned Marbach, they are now collecting also things of thinkers. For instance, I saw the hats of Heidegger. They have all the hats and caps of Heidegger. So that's interesting because it's in this directly
also collecting computers and so on.
Yeah, computers because of the data, of course.
Yes.
But the hat, for instance, what does it mean that they have the hats of Heidegger? I even have it on my iPhone. So that would be an extension of the concept of scripture, of writing, of scribomania.
Yeah.
If you would say that also the hat of a thinker, or you know that concerning Nietzsche, it was always the question of the cane, because Elisabeth Förster Nietzsche gave the cane of Heidegger of Nietzsche to Hitler. So it was always this gesture, Spazierstock, I don't know, cane.
Yeah.
So
Cane,
yeah. So he gave the cane to other people. So what is the meaning of the things? Is the archive also a place for the things, and for what kind of things? So I would say that the question of decision and access, oh, wouldn't you say, is important. Also concerning my texts, for instance, is every text I'm writing, or is every text we write a part of our archive? Everything. Is it like that? I don't know.
Tell us again.
Is everything what I'm writing? Is
Yes.
everything what I'm writing part of the archive?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Why archive? Just you want to say?
Well, maybe
Okay. Why? Because I don't know the others. I know that Milos will go to the one archive in Portugal. Okay. I was several times in archive. Why go to archive? You know, we are. Our job is to produce problems, to solve the problems, to produce arguments, to I don't know, to criticize, to what we are doing in archives. I think this is the same question what we are doing in the bookstores. We are searching something. Sometimes you go to archive to find nothing. For example, I'd like to go to archive, and I'm happy when I'm not find nothing, because I thought that exists some kind of stealing between Rosenzweig and Schmidt. I thought that Schmidt stole this idea about Land und Meer from Rosenzweig, and I was in archive to check does exist some kind of trace, and there is nothing, and I was happy, you know, and that was not well. The same thing, but why this? You know, it's not necessarily to go to archive of Strawson to find, you know, why. You know, okay, this is when we are scribblers, when we are collecting something, we are in this problematic anal type, Freudian protocol. There are some kind of consequences of collecting. You know, when you are collecting, you are losing all the time. You know, I remember one interview of Derrida. He mentioned how many things he lost. Well, okay, then okay, archive, okay, papers, etc. But problem is how to engage all these informations we have. okay, it's not problematic. It's not problematic to write something about. For example, okay, you are different because okay, Reinhard wrote and put in a book, his own book, something he found, or probably he didn't find in Carl Schmitt archive. Okay, but imagine you as such, your brain, Peter, because you mentioned many things which is not written. What's happened with this? You have something which is completely hidden to all of us. We need this.
Well, you think so? Maybe, I don't know. Socrates never wrote. No, but I'm not Socrates. But the thing is,
After.
take a political standpoint take a revolutionary standpoint. Wouldn't we have to burn all our archives? Because wouldn't it be like that actually an archive is in itself, and this belongs to the anti-archae in the archae, that of course that an archive, it stands for a beginning, but it's also an obstacle for a beginning.
Super, yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. So that's it.
Yeah, that would be so in this sense, we also need these distance to the archive, probably, in a way, if we would like to begin anew, for instance. I don't know whether we would like, but if you think about the topic of revolution, I could say that there would. A Marxist archive is in itself a contradictio in adjecto, but of course they made an archive of Marx. but as a revolutionary, I would really think about whether I would be interested in making an archive of Leninists' manuscripts. But well, I did.
I think that Marxists and communists I think that Marxists, communists, and anarchists, in fact, tend to repeat history and to keep it very much. Just one simple example related to both to Marx himself and Walter Benjamin. You know, when they are mentioning the French Revolution, the Jacobin movement, then they are mentioning it within the context on Roman republicanism. And both Marx, I think in Louis Bonaparte Brumaire in that text, and both Walter Benjamin say that French Jacobins repeat Roman republicanism. And I think this is a very important aspect of both Marxism and Marxism, because they tend to repeat history and to keep both repeat and keep it. I think that would be a very long story, but I wouldn't agree with Marx. I mean, today, all Marx Gesamtausgabe, Gesamtwerk, I don't know the German name of it, but yes. Now we have all Marx, Lenin, Engels, sorry, not Lenin this time, not Lenin. Marx and Engels, once again, everything is printed once again because we were relying upon the archives and we have entirely new information, even about Grundrisse, Kapital, about everything, because we were relying upon archives. I think archives are extremely important for Marxism. For instance, Marx was in London, British Museum, all the time in archives, all the time. And if you look at Capital, you can see in the footnotes how many materials did he use, unbelievably many materials.
So the archive is the capital of the Marxists.
I think the archives are communistic because they are shared.
So it's a communist capital.
It's communalist or communist. They want to better mention each other. But I wouldn't agree with that. I think that the archives are in a common field of me and the other, in a common field community. I would say in that way, not, yes, the other is included, you are right, but I am also included in a very specific, in your mind, for instance, you also have your own archives, right? You remember certain things, and this is already what Bergson was calling memory virtuelle, so, and many other dimensions. So you are an archive, I am an archive, but we all belong to perhaps a monistic archive.
Super. I have to continue just several notes. The first, yes, very important, because through the archive, you can learn something. For example, you have many stupid texts about influence. For example, Rosenzweig, Rosenzweig-Schmidt, on many aspects, or Benjamin Schmidt. Go to the archive and check. You know, archive is checking points. It's not, it's forbidden to write n'importe quoi. You know? Come on.
Just for a minute, I will be very short, I promise. So anarchists, just a small addition. So I have an anarchist friend in Budapest. He's a historian writing mostly about Catalonian and Andalusian anarchism, so the best version of anarchism. And he told me that he was in Switzerland, in the best anarchist archives in the world. And I contacted my best anarchist friend from Belgrade, whether he knows about this archive. And he told, oh, I've been there so many times, even as a member of the anarchist worldwide community. There are many of them, but this is an anarcho-syndicalistic one. And he told me, of course I was there. Our organization even supported this archive a few years ago. So that is the meaning of archives for truly emancipatory movements, the affirmation, total affirmation of archives, maybe total, maybe not entirely, but I will talk about that later.
Okay, then I learned in Carl Schmitt archive one thing, many things, but one thing that's very important, because I checked all preparatory notes for Nomos. This is incredible, you know, to see how many work is behind the Nomos, how many etymologies, how many languages he checked. Well, that's important to you know, preparatory work. Okay, in archive, there is not the other manuscripts and the other preparatory, you know, in early phases, but this is most important to guard all preparatory notes for next text or for next book. Or come on.
And how less he was writing about, yeah, and how esoteric he wrote about, yeah. In Germany we say just die Spitze des Eisbergs, yeah. I please want to make some very open ideas or reflections on why we are thinking about archives now, and what does it have to do with digital revolution, yeah, changing the memories of communication and so on, and what does it has to do with something like concepts of individuality and yeah, concepts of individuality. I told you, and I think we there are so interesting and different possibilities of thinking about reflecting on the signs or the proofs that we do have that life is changing totally, and also the concepts of bourgeois self-consciousness and so on, the individuality is totally changing. Yeah, you talked about that. If we go into the emails and so on, we directly come to the point that there will not be any more memory. There will not be found anyone who is reading all these thousands of of emails, that there will be no really good machines to collect it all, but maybe it's already starting that we don't need any more human reader of all this. Yeah, maybe at the moment by KI, or I don't know how you call it, the style of archive is directly changing at all. We talked about clouds yesterday. Yeah, so maybe all this memory is now changing the machines again. Yeah, and also the question: is there anyone to collect and to construct and to analyze all these informations and communications? Is it changing now? Yeah, is there any more human being who is analyzing it, or is it big data, or how you call it? Yeah, so we are in a situation where we have we see that well, the concept of individuality and being a human being is changing now. Yeah, and as philosophers, we can say, well, there will be something like transzendentale Subjektivität oder Individualität. Yeah, well, very funny idea. Yeah, if we go into constructing individuality, yeah, of course the German law has some other categories to say, well, you are an individual and all your papers are very secret to you and your family. Yeah, and that means also the positive law, the legal law, gives answers to the question, yeah, how long you got something like sovereignty on your own papers and so on. Yeah, and that's changing now. If you throw all the archives out into electronic digital systems, yeah, the power to get in all these papers and so on changes. Yeah, that means all the categories we talked about, esoteric and exoteric, all the categories to construct something like a private sphere and a private communication, yeah, is changing. Carl Schmitt's word would say sovereignty. Yeah, how long are you as an individual, yeah, sovereign owner, yeah, of your communications and so on? Yeah.
5 minutes more. Just a second. First, just a second, Mark, second. 5 minutes, give me. You mentioned Kličković, Savo Kličković. His wife, Cica Kličković or Milka Kličković, okay, gave me, infected me with Carl Schmitt. As Peter said about access, I was at her home, I think 20 times. Every time she gave me something small. All the time secrets, all the time secret manuscripts, secrets, photos, secrets, you know, this is infection, you know, about this, you know, Derrida mentions several times police. This is police in archive. You have, she's policeman of archive of her husband and her experiences, etc., letters, etc. She never gave, at the end, she didn't give the letters to archive. She had contact with Husmer, but not with a little bit with Thomisen, but well, give me a second. I was one of the why I was in Schmidt's archive. She pushed me to check one of the phrases of Husmert, not Husmert, just Thomisen, also about anti-Semitism of Duška. And in your book, there is several passages. The how to say, intrigue is a little bit crazy when we know Schmidt and his notes from different periods, from journals, etc., to say that his anti-Semitism was infected by the anti-Semitism of her wife is a little bit complicated, difficult to prove. Well, okay, I tried to check the letters in Serbian, written in Serbian in archive. The small notes, books, agendas, books, etc. She was in party, in Nazi party. She had every Tuesday, I think, the meetings of party. She's generally she was writing in Serbian in this agenda. Also, you mentioned today Russia. Connections with Russia. She learned. She said in one letter to Schmidt that she's learning Russian, and during his Nuremberg.
Mira Klikovic, not Duška, but you're talking about
now about Duška. Yes, not Klitschko. No, just Duška.
Duška belonged to National Socialist Party.
Yes, yes.
I didn't know that.
It's mentioned in 42, for example, in
very interesting. Yeah.
In small, but okay, she was in because in that time, okay, I found that she was intervened several times to solve several lives in Jasenovac. Jasenovac, that means the camp. She was with Lorković, who was Minister of Interior Affairs in Pavelić government. Lorković, as you remember, was a PhD candidate of Schmidt.
Yeah, he made his PhD.
Okay, at the end, Mark, at the end, never mind now, you know that text I sent you, but I will give you again. Okay, at the end, there is one phrase which is, I think, incredible, different. This phrase is Husserl's, and this is anecdote. This in one interview, Derrida's interview, published. I will give you. I hope that you have not. This is the Table Ronde, 17 June 95. Archive et Brouillon. He said this. Anecdote, which is on m'a raconté à Louvain in 53. You remember that Derrida has honoris causa, I think, just from Louvain. Not just from Louvain, but the first one was from Louvain. We don't know they. I'm trying to check this anecdote. They told him that Husserl was very, how to say, silent, normal, calm when during this operation of transfer of archive. And he said, who cares for this? This is who cares? He said, il ne faut pas laisser ça à la disposition des nazis. Des nazis. Huh? Mm-hmm. They told him it's most important that that archive will not in the hands of Nazis. And he said, ça ne fait rien. Si c'est détruit, c'est la vérité. It's not important. If it is destroyed, this is the truth. Mm-hmm. That means this is Husserl Hegelian in that sense. It is written, never mind if it exists or not exists, if it is an archive and not is an archive. This is written. This is the truth. Incredible, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay, I finish.
May I? Okay, the first commentary is a Derridian gift to you, Petar. Please stay here. Can you? Okay. There is a text written by Derrida. I think the title is Éperon, and that is a text on Nietzsche. And yes, and Derrida writes that I have left my Regenschirm, my umbrella. And what is interesting from the viewpoint of the philosophy of archives is I think that, again, once again, from a philosophical point of view, it is strict, in a very strict way, completely undecidable, even today, and of course it is, whether it is a philosophical text or a personal one. And it is really undecidable. And I think that is very interesting for the perspective of the philosophy of archives. May I mention, Petar, what did you said to me when we were going to the conference in Page about Heidegger? May I mention that secret information? Yes, because you...
Don't say nothing about the payment because this is the source.
Okay. Okay, so we are keeping the secret of the archives. That is what I think it's very interesting that if you want to keep your own archives forever, that is a kind of narcissism, and you have to counterbalance it, to resist it, to resist the narcissism with Nazism, in fact. Yes, narcissism and Nazism with a certain other ism. I don't know which one.
Well, I also want to say something to you and to you. So I'm not so just to say about that. We don't have to discuss that, but I'm not so convinced about what you said about communism and archives, because I think that if you think about the relation between superstructure and basis of thinking and what actually the Marxist view on the intellectual sphere of society has to be, of course, rendered also in a revolution. So it's a revolution is never only a material or exterior political change, but also a change of the spirit, if you want to say, of a society. So I guess that, and the archive is always a conserving power. I would say so.
I think anarchist archives are completely revolutionary. I do think that.
Why should they be revolutionary?
Because
when revolution is a modern idea, for instance.
Okay.
There's no idea of revolution in the ancient time. There's no revolution in Christianity. There's no revolution in whatever at the beginning of modernity. So why do you think that there's an archive of revolution?
I think my anarchist friends are going to this archive in Switzerland precisely because they are gaining authentic sources from the emancipatory past, and they are reintroducing those things, those deep insights into today's revolution. I think that Christianity is a revolution, but never mind. Revolutio comes from Galilei, so in the strict philosophical sense, not. But otherwise, I think that
it's of course an astronomical term from Copernicus. But the thing is
that you are right. Sorry,
but I would say there is I would call that an aporia, but we don't have to discuss that. I would say it's an aphoretic. It's an aphoretic idea. There is an aporia in the archive. But what I wanted to say to you is that you said that everything belongs to the archive. You said there's no selection. You said that. And I would just wanted to, well, there's one question about the narration, for instance, of your own life. There is, for instance, writing an autobiography. It would be interesting to ask yourself, or maybe if you're thinking about your life, what actually you would write down, and what you would not write down. And there is a lot, I would say, there's a lot in your life nobody knows except you, or except a couple of people involved in it. So would you say that everything what is concerning your life, and especially maybe the most hurtful things, the most painful things, the most embarrassing things, they are belonging to the archive? Would you say that? Absolutely. I mean, most of the times it doesn't reach. We have to say that, and we have to be probably a little bit honest or sincere.
As you said, the question of transparency, employees, guardians, access. If you ask me, I will tell you. If you ask me about my secret, I will tell you. You don't care.
You would do that, because I would say that the Schmittian archive and the Heideggerian archive does not contain the most embarrassing and painful things in the life of these thinkers. I would say the archives are normally purified. I would claim that.
I was talking now about him, but when we are, for example, when I read the letters of Dusha, because they are translated in English, because you remember this when he was in prison, she sent the letters, and the letters are translated by Americans, etc. And you see the pain, her pain, his pain. Okay, there is no pain in our life, but when we are there, we are full of affliction. We are full of empathy. You told me several days ago I'm in bed, I'm not good, and okay, I'm in myself, I'm constructing all the time that you will not help me. Never mind, but I know that
I could tell you, not in front of everyone.
Never mind, but you are as such, you are.
Yeah, no, but the thing. Yeah, but the thing is, you would say that the art. Maybe I could phrase it in another way. You would say that the archive is actually a place for this most intimate, and therefore in a way. No, not also, but
Yes.
but also for the most intimate things. We would say so.
Yes, absolutely. Now we have all of us. If you open this, you will find incredible things.
Okay, close enough, and then
Well, I actually did want to address this, to go back to this after the discussion on the revolution, this question of whether everything is an archive. Mark mentioned that we ourselves are archives. I wouldn't go so far as to claim that. I think archives are a materialized sedimentation of our personal history. We are talking about personal archives. And
not in the brain, not matter.
Okay, externalized, materialized.
It is externalized. Consciousness is externalized.
Well, sure. I mean, we do have, I think, maybe you're right. I mean, it's open for discussion, but my intuition was in this direction, that archives are objects outside of ourselves, that we decide to, like you said, choose we choose to keep them or to delete them, throw them away. And in this way, we are constructing our personal archives. And if we are doing that ourselves, then what we choose to keep is what remains in the archive. Mm. And if somebody else is doing it, then they get to choose what matters or what is relevant. And then maybe even and then everything that is somehow related to the purpose of the archive, to our professional work, even the hats may be somehow relevant for someone to preserve them. So there's this difference between if we are creating our own archives and if somebody else is creating them. Also related to things, I just wanted to mention that in Husserl archives, you have Husserl's working table and chair, which I think it makes sense for them to be there because they are related to his writing and they are giving some sort of additional insight into his work, the way he worked. For hats, I'm not so sure I would. Maybe for a Heidegger museum, they would be relevant, but for the archive, I'm not so sure. Okay, so that's my comment on this.
Okay. Yeah. So I just, if you permit me, I had some impressions from yesterday that I decided today to write down, but it won't be long, and I think it resonates quite well with what we were tackling yesterday and today also. So what I wanted to say in very brief, if I need to condense it totally, I think there is no archive without the other. Or as Derrida would put it, nul archive sans dehors, no archive without exteriority and consignment. No archive without a certain exteriority and the counter signature of an authority. That's what we were talking, I think, now. Huh? No archive without the transfer of debt and something like a postponed obedience. Therefore, no archive without domination and even instituting violence expressed in an ode to necessary excessive pressure that all archive creation produces as a surplus of its unitary, totalizing tendency of the making of the one. So archive always tends to this oneness, to the so-called totality, And even in ancient Greece, the archon, which had all those papers, all those documents founding the polis, wasn't, I think, the master in its own house, so to say. He needed to be his own other. He knows his own personal other in order to make the archive. In that sense, the idea of making maybe one's own archive that we have had on the table yesterday and today could be maybe explored further somehow, no? It has been told that Derrida was constructing its own archive. Now we expanded this idea. But this might be, I think this must be taken as a highly exceptional and subversive endeavor that is made possible by the protocols of deconstruction. One can organize its writings, one can organize even its complete works, etc. Decide what goes in, what goes out, or to take everything. If the grocery lists goes with the metaphysical dwellings or not, it doesn't matter, I think. The creation of archive requires, I would say, something else, or maybe even more so, someone else. Derrida has repeatedly countersigned its own signature. Counter signature is an important notion, I think. Taking the exteriority into its own hands and proclaiming, je suis l'autre, I am the other. Thus simultaneously disavowing and regaining authority. This is a kind of circular movement of authority there. But as we have said, now this is the only possible way if you have the protocols of deconstruction, or of the ontology, of the spectrality, if you prefer, which unfortunately, God knows, aren't followed by many today. Let me see. Just if I have 2 minutes, I will get to the point. So it can be said that in its common meaning, the archive needs the other. This becomes clear when we bring down the notion of archive to its very plain common sense acceptation. Think just of national archives of all sorts, where the state takes up the role of the other, of the archival authority. Or if we search for archive-like phenomena in the banal everyday environment, aren't the banks archives of our credits and debts? Aren't the cemeteries the archives of the remains of our dead ones? Aren't the museums the archives of art objects? This example could multiply here, of course, now, and they would all underpin the importance of what Peter was mentioning yesterday, the toponomological arche, the importance of the toponomological arche for the nature of archive, and the fact that the archive is the institution of the institution, an institution that needs another higher institution in order to be instituted, the state, the bank, the church, the university, the foundation, etc. Exactly like the archon needs a patriarch. That is that we are talking, I think that we need to make some kind of a differentiation between the patriarchal archive and we remembered better, recalled yesterday that arche in Greek is feminine joy, no? I think we need some kind of a feminine archive, we need gestation, not only conservation, and something that will open really the thing to what is to come, to the future. Yeah, so that's I think in the Le Mal d'Archives is a critique of patriarchal archives. So I can stop here, or I have one comment also on the physical changes that were happening. We were mentioning this also, so I will just finish my thing now, and that will be it. My second intuition concerns the thesis that we were also mentioning yesterday about the end of the archive in the era of internet. The archive is, without any doubt, I think, undergoing serious physical changes, or it has already undergone them. And already in 1994, in Mal d'Archives, Derrida was asking what the email will do to the archive. So it's a question that is 20 years old now. What the email will do, 30 years, sorry. The way we leave traces changed radically with the takeover of the digital world. Print has substituted manuscript, but paper and ink have survived the change. Now those are going out of the game slowly, and all physicality of the archive is reduced to the minimal materiality of the electronic blips on the server. It becomes an impalpable materiality. And we forgot, in the last instance, we forgot the paper money. We're forgetting paper money. We pay by cards. Does this have brought a change to the functioning of the banks? Not so sure. So maybe for the digital age, the good question would be, is the archive same thing as the database? We have databases, and base also make us think about foundation, about archive, no? So is that the same thing? I'm not sure, and I don't know if algorithms will decide in our place what will be archived, or they will just mirror our desires of what we want to archive and how we want to archive. But certainly I do think that without psychoanalysis, but on the Derrida's trace, I think it is impossible to think the archive today, and maybe even more the digital one, the archive. To think the archive without the legacy of the psychoanalysis and without the psychoanalytic, I think, without not necessarily accepting it, but taking it into account. I would say. Yes, and most specifically, there is refoulement, resistance, repression, condensation. All those terms, I think, are necessary for us. And Derrida claimed this is not my idea. This is something that is written in Maldarchi. So yeah, sorry for being too long.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think it gave me an idea that maybe like the great archiver, like the state and what Andrea was talking about, the algorithm is the new archive. But I think that the biggest change between the past archive and today is that if we're talking about the internet, what we are archiving, the data is turning into capital, actually. I mean, it's what is being sold between various companies and enterprises. So maybe we can comment on Andrea's comment, please.
Well, I don't know how much minutes we will still have. To me, I'm impressed of all these statements we got now, and well, I try to catch my very easy mind and think about what to do with all these great ideas and comments. Just in the framework of Carl Schmitt's thinking, and I would say, well, if we want to compare what was happening, what really was something like an happening or a performance made by the spirit of Derrida, or I don't know. Compared to Carl Schmitt, I would say let's prove all these wonderful creative ideas by a re-lecture of a very early thesis of Carl Schmitt. Maybe some of you know the really young Carl Schmitt, not less than 30 years old. He wrote something like a satiric, ironically, text about writing autobiographic novels and so on. It's called Buribunken, yeah, from 1917. He published 3 essays, a very serious publication in a very important magazine edited by Franz Blei, and he compared scholastic thinking with the idea of a romantic archive where everyone confesses every idea and every event of his life, yeah. And Carl Schmitt makes a joke about also academic system, yeah, which is collecting all these romantic confessions, yeah. It's called the Buribunken, yeah. And we can compare our ideas of having something like a spiritual archive of ourselves or so on, with this very satirical comment of Carl Schmitt. You know, Carl Schmitt politically hated individuals and liberalism, and he wrote it in these satirischen text, Die Buchbunken, yeah? And he would say, well, archives and science and so on doesn't make sense just to be something like a platform for collecting individual confessions. Yeah. So I think you talked about that archives need others. Yeah. And there are different ideas of the other, maybe state, maybe God, something like this. Yeah. Carl Schmitt would insist on this idea. I talked about that he was always searching for friends, yeah, that these friends are the others, also beyond the generations, also in the between classic friends. You know, Machiavelli wrote a very famous letter where Machiavelli tells, well, all the day through, I'm a real cruel guy, and I'm always making nonsense and so on. I'm eating and I'm looking for girls and so on. And at night, I go back to my friends and read the antique philosophers. Yeah. That's all. Maybe that's in this case the system of constructing classical thinkers. Yeah, is something like an archive to give a chance to collect friendship between centuries and generations and so on. But the idea that everyone has to confess everything for something like an absolute archive, Carl Schmitt wouldn't like.
Well, this is the point concerning this question about the other. I was thinking all the time a phrase now, just for coming to the end, that you have to fuck the archive. You have to fuck the archive. You have to be able to fuck the archive, because fuck, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Derrida is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What the counter, by inventing the counter signature, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. So the thing is, the other is not the other. And here I would really think that what you said, for instance, that Schmitt would not agree with the trace of his privacy in what he is doing is actually, I would say, actually a weak spot, because it's already there. It cannot be controlled. So in this sense, I would really say that the archive is there's a wild sphere in the inner realm of the archive that you cannot actually, as an author, as a thinker, hinder the trace of what you actually want to withdraw from it. In this sense, I would say it's just here I would criticize Schmitt. It's an empty gesture of power, of self empowerment in relation to the history of thinking, and we don't have, on the basis of the archives, we don't have a clear understanding and a clear control about that, what it means, a history of thinking or of spirit. For instance, you used the term friend, and that Schmitt was looking for friends. What does it mean, a friend, if he is only somebody who can say something very clever about whatever Pufendorf? You would call that a friend? I wouldn't. So what is a friend for Carl Schmitt when this friend in a way arrives his archive or arrives in his archive? I would say it must be more than a special whatever, a clever idea of Hugo Grotius. It cannot be, because that would be fruitless. That would be a castrated form of life and thinking. So in this sense, the other in the archive would be somebody who knows how to fuck the archive, how to see the female dimension of it, because of course there are many people looking in archives and they are writing down what is, they just whatever copying the archive. They make a catalog, for instance, but what does that mean? Is this what we want, what we want from the archive? No, I would say. So in this sense, I would say that even if Schmitt, for instance, would try to say that there is no place for my private life in the archive, it's not possible to purify the thinking. I would say that, but this belongs also to the psychoanalytical, to the Freudian aspect of Malte Schief. So, but this would be another aspect. Okay. But that, so in this sense, I would say that what we can speak about this later. What does it mean, a friend for Carl Schmitt? What is it? What does it mean, friend? So
okay, maybe Milos, would you like to give a comment?
Well, first I have to say that I'm not an expert in the theory of archives, but oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. But I have some personal experience working on the manuscripts and then archives, and I would like to ask you a question based on that experience working with the manuscripts of the other. Well, I worked on the manuscripts of she's a very famous philosopher here, Ksenia Atanasievich. She's also internationally recognized philosopher, but she's a French student, and her manuscripts are kept at the Museum of the Serbian Orthodox Church, and mostly I was conducting research on her lectures on aesthetics, and her lectures are the first course given on aesthetics on the University of Belgrade. So it is also has some historical significance, and I would like to transform it. Is more than 300 pages, to transform it into book, followed by commentaries and introduction. And then also I worked on the estate of Ljubomir Tadić.
One question: why the Orthodox Church?
Because it is pure accidents. They reacted fastly when she died to save the papers, because she had no children and nobody after her. So it is pure accidents, pure chance.
So not because she was an engaged Orthodox Christian.
Her religious thoughts are very complicated.
Okay.
She's very, very complicated, but yeah, she was very spiritual.
Okay.
And I also worked at the Archives of Yugoslavia on the estate of Ljubomir Tadić. He's one of the praxis philosophers of Marxist orientation, one of the founders of our institute. And Petar mentioned, I want to go to Portugal to work on the archive of Álvaro Siza. He's a wonderful architect. So I think I will go there this summer. And Petar and I also want to go this can be very interesting to Cavtat, to work on the archive of manuscripts of Baltazar Bogišić. He's a very famous jurist, and Carl Schmitt admired him very much. And I think he wrote positively about him in his Tagebücher, and he, in his text Illyrian, published in Hochland, and I think it is reprinted in Stadt Grossraum Nomos. And I think Schmitt was there. It is very close to Dubrovnik on the Adriatic coast, and he consulted some.
Get the name.
Baltazar Bogišić.
Baltazar?
Baltazar
So.
Bogišić.
Bogišić. No, I don't know. Yeah.
Bogišić, yeah. And he was there and consulted some legal documents of his, I think, big collection and some important old books.
Yeah.
And
he spent 1 month or 2 months there in this archive.
Oh, yeah.
He was first time in Gruška in Balkan, in Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
That's in the 20s, in the middle of the 20s, something like that.
Yes.
25 or something like that. So there's a beautiful museum with a lot of manuscripts, about 10,000 letters, and it is under the Croatian Academy of Science and Arts. And when I was consulting all these manuscripts, there is an interesting phenomenon. It is related to the notion of handwriting, the handwriting of the other, about the idiosyncratic writing peculiar to one person. Today, at least my generation, since I have been writing the text, I'm writing them on computer, on emails, SMS, mobile phones. And I think my generation have forgotten to read the handwriting of the other people, because we haven't used to it, because of the, I think it is maybe the reason, the technological advancement and the switch towards the computer, mobile phone, etc., etc. So, but for example, when I consulted these correspondences from 50 years ago, postcards, letters, they read each other perfectly and respond to each other, although the handwriting is, from my point of view, very hard to read. But for people before us, it was not a problem. And for us now, it is a big problem. Of course, everybody knows to read his or her own handwriting, but the handwriting of the other, it's, I don't know.
I'm not sure if we can always read ourselves. I can, my handwriting.
Even that, but so my question is, was that always like that, or it is the problem of those generations which forgot to read the handwriting of the other, or it was always complicated to decipher the idiosyncratic, you know, something peculiar to other person. That would be my question. And I have just to add one thing. It is much easier when you consult in archives, photographs, drawing, pictorial material. So there is no problems because there are no handwritten letters, only images, photographies, and pictorial forms. So my question is this problem of our generation, or it was always complicated? I think to read the handwriting of the other person, or we just forgot it.
Yeah. Yesterday we told a little bit about, yeah, of course it's extremely complicated for us too. Yeah. Well, in Germany, we really got also politically organized changing of style of handwriting. Yeah. And I told about that Schmitt wrote different styles of writing. Here you can see he, as a very old guy, he wants to write readable for the younger generation. So if he would, Carl Schmitt would write to an older man or something, he would maybe use another hand script. Yeah, well, the hand scripts from the 19th century and so on, they usually are extremely difficult to read. And well, Schmidt is a special case. In every question, he is a special case because he himself wrote different hand scripts. And also the handwriting is changing about the decades. Yeah, but Max Weber, by example, is maybe you got different problems, but it's extremely difficult too. And well, if you go into the 19th century, you got other difficulties. If you look, by example, like Goethe, yeah, Goethe, in a case for us, it's more easy to read because he got a wonderful hand script, yeah, of course, yeah. And but the question also is when we're talking about, well, when did you know, paper was expensive for the earlier times. Yeah, you can look the history of writing letters, by example, is also and Derrida wrote about a history of post system. Yeah, Friedrich Kittler wrote a lot about. Yeah, we know you know we got Franz Kafka wrote letters to Felice Bauer 3 times a day because the post went 3 times a day, yeah. And now we are happy if it goes every 2 days or something like this. So there are lots of extremely important, conditions which you always have to reflect on if you want to analyze such correspondences. Yeah, well, that's one of the problems, of course, is the hand script and so on. Yeah, when do people start to write lectures? You talked about these lecture. Yeah, yeah, maybe I don't have something like Vorlesungen written in papers or in computer. I'm just talking because I think, well, the other guys are not interested at all, and I don't. Who cares about all these sentences? Well, I will talk somehow like I'm talking now at the moment, and there are no papers. Yeah, yeah. The good some of great good professors like Hermann Lübbe. I talked very briefly. Very interesting also in the archive. Kurt Schmidt always we can see his lectures, Vorlesungen, Vorträge. Yeah, you oftenly he just have one paper. Yeah, Belgrade, 15th March 24, maybe. Yeah, and then he said one quoting he wants to show, yeah, and 2 free remarks, and that's it. Yeah.
It's like a PowerPoint presentation today.
Yeah, no, yeah. No, that's a problem of a PowerPoint presentation. They might make, usually they make much too much words. Yeah, they use much too much papers. I mean, it's a briefing and nobody really wants to see. Yeah, the people are not able to differentiate between encyclopedia concept and something like a presentation which needs to have something like a message. Yeah, and that's of course Kurt Schmidt was a very clever to organize his talkings just for something like a kick. Yeah, you can remember. Yeah, yeah, there are a lot of difficult problems reading hand scripts, and I'm a little bit astonished. We're talking also about digital revolution and so on, but I don't know if the people, why we still don't have the machines or the apps somehow just to read it for us. Yeah, I'm sorry. May I have 1 more minute just to talk? Yeah, sure. Some years ago, I think I had a good idea, and I wanted to earn money by this idea, but nobody was interested in. And I said, because I knew all these problems of transcription, yeah. Well, how do we still transcript these manuscripts? Yeah, you are doing it on your own. You got your copies and so on. Yeah, I thought, well, Carl Schmitt, it's so difficult. Let's do it something maybe like Wikipedia. Yeah, let's bring just the pages in something like a cloud. Yeah, and invite maybe 200 or 2,000 guys, yeah, just to read it, yeah, and everyone, and I think it will happen very quick, yeah, that all the other guys who are reading it, like making Kreuzworträtsel, like will find words, yeah, and so on, yeah. There's no need to do it just for your own, yeah, that you can merely organize, cooperate in some cooperative way. Yeah, I'm finished.
Create a community of people.
Yeah, community. Yeah.
It's just a word for the handwriting. It's Peter quoted this Jean Genet phrase. It's a question of the body. It's there is this Parmenides lecture course in Heidegger from the 40s where he writes about the difference between typewriting and handwriting, and for him it's the same thing. I would say that if you ask for the handwriting, it's a question of the philosophy of the body. It belongs to the hand. In this sense, belongs not only to. It's not only the capacity of writing something, the capability of writing something, it has something to do with sensitivity, with touching, probably with of course, with personality also, but also, I guess, with the writing belongs to the body as a whole. And in this sense, it's still today that the children are learning what scripture is by learning handwriting. So we are not leaving this, that children don't learn anymore to write with the hand, even if later for them that's not so important. They have to start to learn what writing is as such by doing it with the hand. And I think that's very important also for learning to have a body.
Well, I agree.
So in this sense, I will
see how long it will be like this. So
yeah, well, I think we don't know, but it's still like this.
Okay, Andrea,
yeah, for kids, I would agree that this is for very for fundamental importance to do that. But is that the case for an archivist to have manuscripts to attribute some greater attention to this kind of thing? Because that makes me think. Also, I'm sorry for going to Mal d'Archives all the time, but I was thinking that makes me think maybe this is some kind of the Mal d'Archives in itself, you know, some kind of a transgression. Because what is the example that Derrida is taking? Jensen's Gradiva. He takes the archaeologist who falls in love with the girl from the bas-relief, Roman girl that he has in his collection, and he's going to Pompeii to find her initial trace. her footstep in the ashes of Pompeii. And that is delirium. That is the mal d'archive, like the mal de mer. When you're on the sea, you have the seasickness. When you're in the archive, when the archive takes you too much, maybe it can give you some, I don't know, similar kind of, I don't know if you think, what do you think about this kind? Do we need to fetishize some things? Do we tend to, isn't the archive the place of fetishization in itself, in some sense?
Probably.
Maybe a fetishization of the past, keeping the past as a kind of a monument that's unchanging. Anyone else?
Well, but it would be the question: is there can we avoid fetishization? What would you say? I would say no. We cannot avoid it.
No,
we cannot avoid it.
I don't think.
Yeah.
But where do we read it? Well, what do we do with it? Can we do something
With it.
Yeah.
Okay,
We have to be, at least we have to be aware of it. It would be something, I don't know. But
That's what the production.
Ok, Željko. Ne, uzmi mikrofon samo. Sad.
Ja ću reći na njemačkom, pa ću prevesti. On će odgovoriti na engleskom. Ich sag's auf Deutsch und dann wird das kurz übersetzen, dann könnt ihr auf Englisch antworten. Okay. Damit ich präzise mich ausdrücken kann. Also als richtiger Archivator möchte ich hier jetzt eine kategoriale Ordnung einführen, mit Hilfe versuchen einzuführen, also mit Hilfe von Friedrich Kittler, damit wir das alles abrunden mit Friedrich Kittler, von dem auch gestern die Rede war. Also die zwei Paradigmen, also zwei Aufschreibsysteme von Friedrich Kittler, sogenannte, ich werde jetzt nicht über Friedrich Kittler referieren, das kennen wir einigermaßen, aber so, um daran zu erinnern, also Aufschreibsysteme 1800 und Aufschreibsysteme 1900. Worüber hier die Rede war, also würde ich sagen, das gehört zu diesem Schriftparadigma und das sind Aufschreibsysteme 1800. Auch wenn Friedrich Kittler sagt, also es geht um ein Sinnparadigma, das heißt, das Materielle wird zurückgedrängt, das Sinn drängt sich auf, die Referenzen verschwinden etc. Ja, der Sinn verselbstständigt sich, also es hat die Tendenz und so weiter. Ich würde sagen, nein, es geht auch um, das Materielle ist da, in Spuren auch zumindest. So würde ich auch Derrida oder beziehungsweise seine Reflexion über die Schrift auch in dieses Paradigma einordnen. Das heißt, auch das, was Peter sagt, könnte man auch in diesem Schriftparadigma sozusagen, auch was Derrida sagt, könnte man auch in diesem Schriftparadigma behandeln, als Spuren, die auf eine potenzielle Bedeutung doch verweisen. So. Und dann die zweite Sache, also das Paradigma oder Aufschreibsysteme 1900, das ist jetzt dieses technisch generierte Archivierung, sagen wir so. Und meistens wird das irgendwie abgehandelt als Nivellierung, als Einebnung, als Verschwinden vom Sinns. Also wie nennt das Kittler, der Zufallsgenerator etc. Ja. Also technische Systeme generieren bestimmte Informationen, die eigentlich so Sinnzufälle sind. Also es erzeugen bestimmte sinnhafte Inhalte, aber das wird so als Zufall generiert. Hier würde ich sagen, dass es, also in der Technikphilosophie wird also das bezieht sich vor allem auf neue Technologien, dass diese Nivellierung doch irgendwie in das Diskursive sozusagen eingeholt werden muss. Sie holt sich selbst. Das heißt, die ganze Nivellierung im Netz erzeugt wieder Diskurse, von denen man jetzt keinen direkten Subjekt angeben kann. Das ist jetzt nicht dass man hat weiterhin Zuschreibungsschwierigkeiten, um ein Subjekt dieses Diskurses zu identifizieren, aber dennoch es wird symbolisch sozusagen irgendwie noch, kommt wieder sozusagen ins Spiel, das Symbolische. Nicht jetzt einfach so das Rauschen, von dem Kittler spricht. Ja. Das heißt, das ist würde ich sagen, das ist eine, naja, was heißt die technisch generierte Archivierung? Würde ich nicht sagen, dass es einfach so mimetisch abläuft. Also das heißt, es hat irgendwie noch, und es ist nicht zufällig so die Rede von einer hermeneutischen Wende in der Technikphilosophie und auch in Medienphilosophie. Die bezieht sich jetzt nicht auf eine konservative Technikkritik, sondern die Technik generiert neue also neue Inhalte, die nicht einfach so sagen, eingeebnet sind in dieses Zufallsgenerator, wie Kittler das sagt. Das heißt, es erzeugt bestimmte Phänomene, die jetzt nicht einfach berechnet werden können. So die sind eigentlich diskursiv, die Idee. Nur es gibt keine jetzt Subjekte in diesem klassischen Sinn. Das ist nur ein Beitrag zu diesem, was heißt jetzt die technisch bedingte oder medial bedingte Archivierung als eine Möglichkeit. Also das ist noch offen. Das übersetze ich nur kurz. Das wird jetzt... Dakle, imam sad, izvinjavam se zbog ovoga, ali moram precizno. Dakle, imamo Friedrich Kittler o kome je bilo govora ovdje i juče i danas. Dakle, to je jedan filozof medija, filozof tehnike, koji je napravio dva takozvana sistema zapisivanja, koje on nazvao sistem 1800 i sistem 1900. Sistem 1800 je klasični sistem. To je neka cezura koju on identifikuje oko 1800. godine gdje kaže da se u tom sistemu, u toj paradigmi zapisivanja, arhiviranja, ako hoćemo, vlada smisao. Dakle, on potiskuje materijalnost tendencijno, traži se uvijek smisao koji je razumljiv, koji se može odvojiti od svog medijalnog nosioca i tako dalje. Ja bih rekao da to nije baš tako. Ja bih ovo nazvao paradigma pisma, odnosno zapisa, jer bih ovdje uključio i Derridu i ovo što ti govoriš o tragovima, dakle i o materijalnosti. Ona se možda tendencijalno potiskuje, dakle traži se uvijek ono šta razumijemo, ne na osnovu čega razumijemo i u kojoj formi, kom mediju, ali ne ipak na osnovu tih tragova o kojima govori Derrida i o kojima govori ova materialistička teorija medija, mogu se ipak nekakve reference na određene smislove ili smislene sadržaje mogu se ipak u filozofiji tehnike, to je abduktivno zaključivanje, dakle tragovi upotrebe tehnike, ali ipak možemo da identifikujemo nosioca, subjekta i tako dalje. Ovaj sistem 1900 se odnosi na tehnike zapisivanja, nove tehnike, dakle kao gramofon. Gramofon ne zapisuje sa smislene sadržaje, nego zapisuje oscilacije. A mi šta čujemo? Mi čujemo možda neke smislene sadržaje, ali čujemo i šumove. Dakle, ovdje su šumovi i smislenost i smisao dovedeni otprilike u istu ravan. Kroz digitalizaciju to se još potencira na jedan drugi nivo. Dakle, digitalizacija ne proizvodi tu vrstu šuma, ali nivelira u smislu praktično na jedan veliki šum informacija. Sad, ja bih ovdje rekao da tu ipak postoji, kao što znamo, u internetu se ipak stvaraju nekakvi diskursi. Dakle, iz tog šuma informacija proizlaze određeni diskursi koje mi, doduše, ne možemo više da identifikujemo subjekt tih diskursa, tako jednostavno, ili ih onako provizorno ili nekako arbitrarno određujemo. Međutim, to su ipak diskursi, ipak sekvence, smislene sekvence, simboličke sekvence, ponovo diskursi koji imaju određene i narativne i ideološke strukture. To je samo kao ponuda ovdje u kategorijalno, da uvedemo, pokušamo na ovoj šemi da određeni... Samo još jednu stvar, noch eine kleine Bemerkung zum Marbacher Archiv, da war ich einmal, da haben sie uns Heidegger-Schriften gezeigt oder so ein Teil aus seiner Kiste. Das Einzige, was ich zu sehen bekommen habe, so ist ein leeres Blatt mit Spinoza-Aufschrift und das war alles leer. Ich weiß nicht, was das genau hieß, das waren irgendwelche Vorlesungen So meine arhiverfahrung so weit poravni Heidegger. Znači ja sam jednom bio u tom arhivu u Marbachu. Ono jedino što sam, bilo smo kratko, jedino što sam dobio da vidimo Heideggera je stvari jedan prazan list sa natpisom Spinoza. Samo Spinoza, to su bilo valjda nekakve crtice do predavanja. Ok, to je. Sorry. That's okay.
Okay, now you can comment on Željko's intervention, and then we will have to bring it to the close.
Yeah, well, I would like to talk quite long on Friedrich Kittler, which I knew from 1981 to 1985 quite close, because I took part at his seminars in Freiburg, and I was, I know that this famous book Aufschreibesysteme, he proved and tested to us as students. I knew him quite well, and he was the most ingenious experience of my student times. Yeah, I would say he was the only really ingenious intellectual I ever, maybe Ernst Rudolf Hubert too. But I would like to comment. But if we reflect on our seminar now, we got a fourth very important big thinker of maybe the problems we are talking about. Yeah, we got Heidegger, we got Carl Schmitt. Now today we got Derrida, and now you open up a next one and a guy, yeah, and you bring us really in a big question how to bring it all together. Yeah, to me it was very easy, I will say. You know, Kittler translated Derrida and knew him a little bit personally. Also was one of the first guys who brought Foucault and others into the German discussion. And I was always, and I'm still absolutely convinced that to me, it's no need to read Derrida or to Foucault, because Kittler simply is the best. Yeah, and he not only wrote about Aufschreibesysteme 1800 and 1900, as you introduced very fine, but also about Aufschreibesystem 2000. Yeah, but this book he didn't publish. Yeah, and Aufschreibesystem 2000 to Kittler, of course, it's a beginning and the starting up of digital revolution, starting with Second World War and Alan Turing and so on. Yeah, and he talked about in the early 80s. He talked about and all these guys. To me, it's interesting that the book on Aufschreibesystem 2000 he never published, and then he. At the older Kittler, he died quite early. The older Kittler, he switched from Aufschreibesysteme 2000 back to the old Greeks and wrote a very ingenious project in music and mathematics. Yeah, he totally changed because he thought, well, Aufschreibesysteme 2000, well, it's cruel. And it's not very human, maybe, and I don't find love at all. There is a little bit, I think there will be a close relation to Foucault and the project of Sexualität und Wahrheit, sexuality and truth. Yeah, Kittler did the same project in a much more, I think, engaged and ambitious way, yeah. But if we just close our seminar today with some remarks, what will change if we discuss all the problems with Friedrich Kittler, yeah? Then of course I think it's the idea, as you told, we cannot discuss all these questions still in the Aufschreibesystem 1800 or in Aufschreibesystem 1900, which went up to Kino. Yeah, the Aufschreibe, that means technical collection of images. Yeah, to Kittler, it was first of all Hollywood and so on. Yeah, Richard Wagner as the first great Hollywood star. Yeah, Herr der Ringe. Yeah, we knew one of the biggest big blockbuster that's Richard Wagner. Yeah, in a
Ring of the
yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot of
something else.
yeah. So I think the real crucial point we have to make is of all these nice ideas of constructing individuality and remembering and so on. Yeah. In digital system still works somehow, yeah. But I think that is really the interesting point of Peter made to bring us into this question here all together, yeah. To say, well, theory of archive, Schmidt is dead. He belonged to the Aufschreibesystem 800, yeah, 1800, yeah, and there's no big difference between 800 and 1800, yeah, maybe, yeah, and well, Foucault, Derrida, maybe, well, it was a little bit more forward, yeah, but Kittler knew it all in the early 80s. He was directly saying it. Yeah, of course, Gutenberg Galaxis will die and so on. Yeah, and he was absolutely sure that the machines will overrule us and take the power. Yeah. Well, and he switched out and said, "Let's go back to the Greeks." Yeah.
Just one thing.
Just right?
You mentioned that you mentioned the topic of the loss of the subject, the loss of subjectivity. Probably we could combine this perspective with Luhmann's theory of the system. So to speak about systems, not about subjects and not about human beings in this sense. And I guess that would be an effect of this dissemination of the discourse in the digital world of discourses. Yeah, that on the basis of the internet or of the digital world, we cannot anymore use the word discourse in the singular. Actually, there is no discourse in this sense. There is, well, maybe there are discourses, and these discourses are so disseminated that take for instance the status quo of art today. I was dealing a little bit with what happens in art today. We are losing actually our capability to say in art today this happens. We cannot say that actually. We cannot say anymore say that. And the artists would never say that. They would never say, we have the comeback of the painting. We had this in the 80s, for instance. You know, there was the comeback of the paintings but you cannot say this
for commercial motives.
What?
For commercial motives. Yeah, the paintings you can sell, but it's not art anymore.
No, well, there are painters still, Nioral, for instance, and so on. But nevertheless, you couldn't say today the master art of today is painting. It doesn't exist. There is no discourse of art that you can say, this happens. So in this sense, I would say that one could say that the internet is not just a nivellation, that the internet or that the digital world produces kind of a kind of hiddenness also, where something can happen. But in a way, I would say there is a point where quantity becomes quality, where really something changes in our relation to the world. For instance, by the concept of the loss of subjectivity. For me, for instance, I would say an archive is the trace of a human being, of a certain human being with a certain life, with a certain narration of his life, with a certain biography. That's for me a presupposition. I don't want to deal with the archive of a machine. Would be interesting. Can there be an archive of a machine? Probably not. Or no, I don't know. So, but I would say it's a presupposition for me to deal with a human being, so with the subject in a way. So in this sense, when we are dealing, when we are seeing, when we are confronted with what you call, for instance, the loss of subjectivity, the loss of the subject, I would say, well, then something happened. That's just what I wanted to say to what you said about Kittler. So Kittler, the response to Kittler is Luhmann, would be Luhmann.
Noch ein Satz oder zwei Sätze noch. So, und wieder Chance. Zum Beispiel ein neues Phänomen, das es nur in dieser digitalisierten Variante der Aufschreibung gibt, ist zum Beispiel der Hypertext. Es gibt Leute, die können nicht mit Hypertexten oder mit dieser Art und Weise, mit diesen Möglichkeiten durch den Text zu gehen oder durch das Archiv zu gehen, umzugehen. Die verstehen das nicht. Es gibt dann welche, jüngere Generation zum Beispiel, die sich auf Technik irgendwie nochmal auch mit körperlich auseinandergesetzt, auch wenn es nur ein Finger ist. Zum Beispiel mein kleiner Neffe arbeitet, der kennt sich, also der macht alles mit Fingern so, der kommt durch das ganze Dickicht an den Zeichen, kommt er wunderbar durch. Also das ist irgendwie, er versteht das. Das ist etwas, was verstanden werden muss. Das ist jetzt das ist eine, würde ich sagen, neues Qualität. Also es wurde nicht generiert einfach aus der Quantität. Natürlich diese ganze Debatten um Big Data etc., die Phänomene gibt es natürlich, ja. Also nur, dass es so bestimmte Sprünge hier gibt, auch neue symbolische sozusagen verstehbare Erscheinungen, mit denen wir halt die verstanden werden können, aber nicht müssen. Also das heißt, es ist ein relativ klassisches Problem, sage ich, obwohl er neue Hermeneutik verlangt. Also darum ging es mir. Also und da gibt es noch neue Phänomene, zum Beispiel gerade in der Kunst und was heißt die neu generierte Kunst, die jetzt nicht den Punkt, also nicht den Begriff der Authentizität bedient. Vergessen wir jetzt die Autoren, Frage des Autors und etc. der Zuschreibung. Also es sind neue Phänomene, die verstehbar sind. Das ist, die verlangen das Verstehen. Die sind irgendwie von dem Behalten dieser Struktur der Ganzheit des Verhältnisses, des zirkulären Verhältnisses von dem Ganzen und dem Teil. Und das erzeugen die technischen Systeme. Und das ist das meine ich. Also das ist etwas, womit auch die Technikphilosophie nicht umgehen kann.
Yeah, well, but the question is, what does it mean, understanding here? It's understanding how to drive a car is something else as understanding how to read the text, for instance. So different concepts of understanding. Because if you drive a car with a gear, you cannot, drive a car with fantasy or something. You have to do what the car is telling you. So your kid is, or your nephew is learning what the machine is telling him. This is what he understands, but he cannot understand something else that the machine is giving him to understand. He cannot say that, well, I want to yes, water the computer and look what happens with the computer when he is throwing water on shedding water on the computer. it's gone. So this is understanding is not just understanding.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So if we don't want to be locked up in the building, we have to bring it to the close. So I'd like to thank you, Professor Mering and Professor Travny, for this opportunity, and I think we have created many interesting ideas and topics which have the potential to be developed into many different strands. So thank you, and thank you everyone who stayed till the end.
Thank you.